Hi, this is Janet Quiring again, coming to you from University of New England, HIN 620. Today I would just like to show you how I created my database and my tables for my diabetes registry. We will begin with a short slide presentation, and then I will take you to my actual SQL, diabetes registry workbench, and we will just take it from there, and I will explain to you step by step what I did, why, and what I haven't completed yet, based on some of the data that I don't yet have. So let's begin. So beginning with this tour, what we needed to do first was to create data for my table. So what I did was I created a patient ID column for table 1. For table 2, I did sort of like a diagnosis column for what your criteria would be for type 2 diabetes. And then the last table, I created my risk factors, which will be included also in my database for diabetes. So these are just some short or small snapshots of what my database actually looks like. So step 2 was to take the data, to create a database. And what I was able to do was to write the script and create a database in my SQL workbench, as you can see here, and I will take you actually to it in just a moment. And that's where we began. So we created the database, and mine is called DR, which is Diabetes Registry. Let's move forward. And then we had to create the demographics table. And as you can see here, here's a snapshot of what I put in. And what I actually did was create a patient ID for each of these patients, going from 001 all the way up to, it ended up being 21 because I had a little problem with a repeat of the primary key, so I had to eliminate one column. But anyway, I ended up with 20 patients. And as you can see here, here is what my table description actually looks like. So I have the patient ID, the first name, the last name, the address, the city, the state, and down here is the zip code. And it corresponds to the data that was put into the demographics table. The patient ID, first name, last name, address, city, state, and zip code. Let's move over to the next. This is what the demographic table actually looked like when all the data was added in, and when you did a rotor code for select to show all of the data on the diabetes registry demographics table. So here are my patient identifiers all the way up to 20, if you could scroll down, and here are my first name, last name, address, city, state, and zip code. Next table is my diabetes criteria table. I just created the table. I don't really have any information to put in there yet because I have to actually add what the abnormal values would be to diagnose for you. So I'm going to have to figure out how to insert that. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm working on that. And then I would be able to take my patient's information and put their lab values in and create a query to see if they posted as diabetes or not, or type 2 diabetes or not. So here we have the fasting glucose. We have the A1C, which is spelled wrong. I got to fix that. As an integer, not null, and then the BMI, your body mass index, which is indicative of type 2 diabetes as well. And so here it is as it looks like a table. And what I have to put in are if your fasting glucose is above this number, 126, if your A1C is above 6.5, if your BMI is above the integer for that. And so this is what the table looks like once it's done, but we still have to put the data in it. The risk factor table has quite a few risk factor criteria in it, and I will show you the full one in just a moment when we actually go to my workbench. But also over here, you can see where I created my database, and you can see I have a demographics table, I have a diagnosis table, and I have a risk factor table. So you can see part of it here, and then down here, you can see where I had the patient identifier, where I had the test date, the blood pressure, the age, the total cholesterol, the LDL, the triglycerides, the HDL, if you go back up here, smoker, and then a couple of risk factors for kidney function, and then your retinal exam. And this is how far we've gone. And now I will take you to the workbench where you can actually see my work. So the creation of the database, when you come over here, you look at all the values, and then you can see all of my data that I put in for each patient or my fictitious patient, my demographics, patient ID, first name, last name, street, address, city, state, and then zip code. And if we go to the tables over here, you can see the demographics, and you can see my VAR charts are listed here. And I think if we right click on it and we show table, it will actually show you the entire table here with all the data in it. And so that's that table. And then we'll close out of that table. And then we'll go, let's see, back to my project, my diabetes registry project. And we'll keep going, and you can see here, let's keep going. You can see here where I created the table for a diagnosis, and there's the fasting glucose, the A1C, which I will correct that as soon as we're done here, and the BMI. And of course that table is going to be over here. And if we show you the values, you'll see it has no values in it yet, but there will be. So that's that table. And let's go back to the original project. And I can show you my risk factor table here, where we created a table for patient ID, test date, blood pressure, age, total cholesterol, LDL, triglycerides, HDL, smoker, which will be a yes or no character, albumin or your creatinine clearance, which will let us know if you are in renal failure, and then your last retinal exam so we can monitor your glaucoma factor. And that would be this table here. And if we right click on this table and we select the rows, there's no data in here, but as you can see across here are all the values for the table, which hopefully at some point we will be able to interface that with the patient data. So if we go over here back to the original table, I ended up writing, I don't know if I can get back down here, about 105 lines of code just to try to get all this done. It took quite a bit of time, and I'm still not done yet, but this is a good start. So here we have it, and I showed you the slide presentation. Thank you for joining me, and stay tuned because we will do this again, and hopefully we'll have even more data completed in this chart. Thank you for your time and attention. Goodbye.